What's up, everybody? On this episode of the Boston Ski Party, we have Joe Johnson, the Alpine and Nordic Marketing Manager at Salomon North America. We discussed the current level of success Salomon is having in all categories of hard goods and what it's been like to have such an awesome product like the Salomon Shift during the explosion of alpine touring. All right, dude. So let's get into it, man. I know you, and we all know you pretty well. And why don't you just tell us, your current role and what you got going on at Salomon and how you got there?
Yeah, that's a good question. My role at Salomon right now, I'm the head of Alpine marketing in North America, and it's been kind of a long, kind of up and down kind of journey through the brand to get there. I've worked internally for Salomon for almost 8 years now, and when I was initially hired, I was running the marketing for the outdoor category, which is kind of like the hiking footwear, Alpine, which I still do, Nordic, and then also I was still doing global community management for Salomon Free Ski. So like running the social media channels, working with athletes, all that kind of stuff. And then over the years, as those categories grew respectively, we were able to hire and like build a bigger team and offer more support in those individual categories. So we were able to hire somebody to run the outdoor marketing. I was able to hire Jesse Ambrosi Janssen to run the community management on the global side. And then that allowed me to focus kind of on the Alpine side of the business, which is where my passion is. And then recently with the kind of the revamping of the Salomon apparel line, that's been added as well. So really focused on the snow season, obviously, and that's a combination of Alpine hard goods and snow apparel.
And before, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure last time we discussed this, you worked marketing for agency prior to going full Salomon
in-house.
In-house, right? Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I worked for an agency called Outside Media for almost 4 years before I got hired in-house by Salomon. And Outside Media was a small kind of boutique marketing and PR agency that really kind of fought outside their weight class, I guess is the best way to put it. It was super small. I think at our biggest, we had 7 employees maybe, but we had awesome clients. We were working with Salomon, quite a few from the Amer portfolio, Salomon Suunto, Tordrillo Mountain Lodge, LifeStraw, like a lot of big outdoor clients, Alta Ski Area kind of being the main ones. And it was an awesome opportunity to get to work with some of those huge brands, and that's eventually what led me to the role inside with Salomon.
And you lived in Alta, right? Because every time we skied there, like you always pointed out, but like where we usually meet, you're like, yeah, I used to like my office was like right here, and it's almost like unbelievable. You're like, no, it wasn't. You're like, yeah, dude, literally like that is like where I would like sleep on the floor right in there. It's pretty fucking nuts because it's like right on the hill, and like that's kind of like a wild thing to do, and most people would be like, I would kill someone for that job.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of that dream gig. Hillary and Shane Hutchison hired me, and my accounts right off the bat were Salomon and Alta Ski Area, and so I got this gig where I got to split my time between Salt Lake, where I had a house, and I was here from essentially like end of September through the ski season, so like mid-April, and then I would move up to Montana, which is where Outside Media was based for the summers. But for Alta, like it was amazing. I graduated from the University of Alta, which is spent my 4 years there, got the sweatshirt, got the hoodies, all that kind of stuff. It was great. But like, I had the opportunity to work with Connie Marshall, who you guys know, and she's a legend in the industry, and work with her and got to do some awesome campaigns, work with the athlete team there, which obviously helped kind of grow the experience for when I started working with the Salomon athlete team. And then like at the same time was juggling Salomon stuff and managing the PR in North America for the hard goods side of the business. And so it was great to juggle it. It was even better to be doing it, like I said, at the office in Alta. It was this weird, like reimagined office space, if you will. It had a sink behind me for some reason, and then like cupboards. And then I looked out, they had put in a desk, and I looked out this window that opened up like a drive-through window, and there was like stairs right there. So people would like walk up and they'd knock on my window like, tourists that were lost or like athletes who were coming by to go out and shoot or whatever. And they would just like knock on the window and I'd like open it up and could go out and shoot. But then there was just enough space. Like I could turn around. There was just enough space where I could like store a bunch of skis in the corner that we'd like take out for demos and stuff or photo shoots. And then there was enough space to lay out a sleeping pad and sleep on the floor when, the canyon closed or went to the P-Dog and stayed a little too late, whatever it may be. But it was a pretty awesome experience.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And if anyone's familiar listening that where you're talking about, like tell them exactly like what chair you're looking at so people can kind of put it together where you kind of like live most of the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would park my car in the Wildcat parking lot and I would walk up right past the main ticket office building and up the stairs in my office. When I sat down, I would be looking straight out at the Collins chair. And then if I like opened the window and stuck my head out, I could see the Wildcat chair. So, in my opinion, two of the most iconic chairs in the West, definitely in Utah, probably in the West. It was pretty awesome, surreal experience, I guess is the best way to put it.
Is that office currently occupied or is it vacant? Do you ever like knock on the window and see who's in there?
I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that.
I know he will be this year.
I would imagine that somebody would take it because it's iconic, man. Like it's so perfect. You just sit there and like wait for the line to go away at Collins, and then you can throw your stuff on and go hop on the chair. It's great.
Dude, yeah, it is really cool. Now I'm curious when we go back. I want to knock on the window.
Yep.
We're going to knock on the window.
Maybe there's a cardboard cutout of Joe just at a desk. It just says Facebook on it. Dude, so all right, so let's talk some product. Obviously you guys have you've done over the last few years, a lot of really exciting stuff. New stuff's coming out. But before kind of getting into maybe boots or skis, and I want to talk real quick about the Shift binding, and just because the success of the Shift obviously is insane. But obviously, now the slowing of it and things are changing. But from the marketing side, what Salomon was able to do, essentially, how they got consumers to look at a binding so differently from like its use case and price. I mean, the marketing story behind that binding was insane.
How about this? Like when you first saw the Shift, like what was your reaction as a marketer of you were going to market the Shift? You saw like it kind of, once it does its first like Optimus Prime thing, like where it opens up and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck was that? What was your reaction?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on if you're
when did you see it?
Yeah, that's the question. So it's a difference between when I saw the first final version and when I saw like the first proto version, because those were very different and had very different reactions from people, as you can imagine. The proto process is one that is not easy for any product, and when you make it about a product like the Shift that has moving parts and new materials and new constructions and new ways of working, like it added a whole mix to it. But if we're talking specifically about when we finally got our hands on that final product, and to your point, you like put up the toe lever and like, it was awesome. It like, as a marketer, your mind, it finally goes from that point of like, oh yeah, we're going to have a new binding, we're going to be able to talk about it, to be like, we are going to mess some shit up and it is going to be awesome. Like, and your wheels just start turning about what you're going to be able to do, how you're going to be able to do that, the opportunities and the options that are going to be presented, not only as a brand, but like to you from other people wanting to work with you in different ways because of that product. And there's not many products that have done that over the years, right? Like I would put the Shift in kind of that class of I'm not going to say game changer because that's an overused word, but like it made a difference and it kind of changed the trajectory of how things were going at the time.
I mean, yeah, it's a product that people came in and they said they wanted to buy it. And, to what you just said, that's very rare in our business for someone just to come in off the street and say, hey, I'm here, I want to buy a Salomon Shift. And not only do they want to buy it, they wanted to give you $600 for it. And not only that, they usually needed a ski or a new ski boot or a set of skins or all four things. And so like the average ticket for ski shops in North America just exploded because of the shift binding. And it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's overused game changer for sure. But I think as far as bindings go, I mean, that was probably the most disruptive binding technology. And
oh, dude, it affected ski and boot sales for everybody. And then you guys somehow timed it like right before COVID, which was pretty genius.
Yeah, nice job.
Yeah, amazing. Like, how much different would have ski purchasing really have been if the shift didn't exist? I mean, like, that's kind of wild to think about.
No,
Yeah.
it is. It is. And you know what went into the market? What was going on in the marketing meetings? Like, what were you guys fucking talking about? Like what were you saying? Like, you guys convinced all of North America, the top level ski market in North America, to spend $600 on a binding. Like, how did that even?
Oh, I know. You go from like $250 essentially.
Yeah.
$230 was the Griffin. Maybe the Warden was $250, $260. Like, you know what? Fuck that. $600.
Yeah.
And it fucking worked.
I mean, was there any blowback on, like, initially? I know we're like deep into it now, and everyone's kind of used to it, which is even better. But the initial push, like, hey, we're going to charge $650. Like, what was that conversation like?
You know, honestly, I think with every new product, there's going to be that time where you're going back and forth about the pricing, how you're going to position it, whatever. But I think with the shift, it was one of those products that everybody was pretty aligned on what we had, right? And they were like, we have an opportunity to change how this pricing structure even looks. And it's not, you know, you're essentially not just getting one binding, you're getting two bindings if you think about it in that way. And then at the same time, you know, a lot of brands talk about it being athlete driven and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, we say that as a brand as well, but with the shift binding, I mean, that was truly an example of being an athlete driven product. Like, that binding was first thought of on a Mountain Collective athlete meeting down in Lake Powell on a houseboat. Like, that's where that idea started. And then it like evolved and continued to evolve over the course of, I want to say, 7 years before it finally came to market. And so when you take all of that into account and all the different variations of the protos, the different materials that were tried and all that kind of stuff, like, you get down to the pricing and everybody's kind of like, well, I think this is a good number. And there's not really going to be much discussion because you know everything that's went into it. You know what it's going to offer to the consumer, and everybody's pretty much on the same page.
Yeah. And then the second part of it is, I mean, was it discussed internally that, like, you know, the downstream effect of like what this binding is going to do to the average ticket? I mean, because initially that's not something that I would think of right away. You're kind of wrapped up in the project. You think you can make something really cool. The use case is great. It's going to be a game changer, right? Overused game changer. But the reality is just to use it for what it's built for. Like, there's all these other costs associated with that people just decided to spend on. And it was really the binding that was the facilitator. Is that just a happy coincidence?
I think it's to say that we didn't think about that. And, you know, if you've seen most of the products that have come out since then, like, you know, with the evolution of the QST line, boots, some of the other products that we're offering, they all kind of dovetail off of that, right? And so I don't think it was the initial thought process, but once we got rolling with the shift, it's a logical step for a consumer to make, right? Like, hey, I have this awesome binding that is going to allow me to ski in a certain way. I'm going to buy that binding. Like, oh shit, now, like, I should probably get a different ski. Oh, this is going to allow me to do this. Maybe, like, instead of a alpine pole, I need a backcountry pole now. Next thing you know, they're getting backpacks. They got to get the Avi equipment. Like, it goes on and on outside of even equipment that we make as a brand. Like, we don't make any of the Avi equipment stuff, but like, my guess, and I don't have the research to back this up, but my guess would be like they benefited just as much from kind of the backcountry growth that it started from the shift.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. And something that, you know, we talk about internally here, at least the first year. I mean, not so much anymore because people kind of know what they're getting themselves into. But a lot of times, like, you do a boot binding ski sale. Oh, I want to buy the shift. They don't even know why, which is great. And then you're like, okay, you got to add skins. You know, they're $189, $200. Like, oh, I'll just get those later. And you're like, okay, no problem. But like, that was, again, another thing, like an extra $200-ish at the point of purchase that, you know, people weren't necessarily, you know, committed to buying. But yet, for whatever reason, you know, that binding is something that they felt like they needed to have, which was kudos to you guys because it really was.
Well, that's another reason why it ended up being something special, because people were willing to shell out $600 on that binding. And Joe, you know this, everybody in here knows this, like majority of people are never putting that in walk mode.
Right.
But it's the aspirational effect of like, well, I have the ability to do this, and okay, I don't have the right boot, I don't have skins, I might not have the right ski, but I've got this binding that someday will allow me to do that.
Well, it's kind of like Eric with his pickup truck. He's never towing anything. He could.
I can. I can.
Yeah,
right, he could.
Yeah, I aspire to tow a boat behind me.
I can tow 14,000 pounds. I mean, but who's counting? Who's counting? Well, I mean, if our industry as a whole could come up with something like the shift, like every other year, or even whenever, if they could just come up with something like that, I think the winter sports industry obviously would be a much more fruitful place, because it was a game changer binding. Again, reusing the word, but it really was, and we benefited directly from it, and I know a lot of other people did too.
The whole industry did.
Yeah,
and I think
which is a great segue to when's the second version coming out?
Ooh,
come on, guys.
Come on.
No, that's a great question, but I did want to like say one thing about kind of like how the groundswell of the shift started. Like, I think it was an awesome example, and it was awesome to be a part of like the launch of it, right? Like, it was probably, we still use it as an example internally of how to correctly launch a product. And it doesn't work for every product. And I think that's the struggle that you run into as a brand. You're like, oh, it worked for the shift, it'll work for this, and it'll have the same effect. And it's like, not really. But it's a great example of like the execution of everything from the product itself to the athlete involvement behind it, the assets. I mean, we did like a launch event up at Alta with media, and it was 3-4 days of skiing, guided touring, like all this kind of stuff. It was fantastic. And then even the follow-up from the sell-in to the sell-through with retailers like you guys, making sure the training assets were on point. Like, did we nail everything? No, but like overall as a plan, like it came together super well.
So how is that different with the shift binding than it was, say, launching a new QST ski or, some of the new boots that you've launched?
Yeah, I think with new QST skis, it's a little different because the collection's been around for a little bit, and you're not necessarily we haven't necessarily created new molds in a little bit. We're changing up the construction. We're sticking with that same profile and shape that people know and love. So there's not like that new story that's like really going to allow us to kind of blow the roof off of the place. I do think moving forward, we're going to have that opportunity with some products on the boot side and the binding side. But on the ski side, but again, I go back to a comment I said earlier, there are very few products that come out, over the course of history in the ski industry that really pack a punch like the shift did. And then you guys could probably name like 10 of them off the top of your head or whatever, 5 to 10 products that have had that impact on the industry, and everybody's shooting to have the next one. And so will we have the next one? I don't know, but we've got some cool ones coming down the pipeline that we're going to, give our best shot at blowing the roof off. That's for sure.
So speaking of blowing the roof off, what's it like having Salomon boots? I think arguably you guys are number one in ski boot US globally. Maybe you would know better than me.
Globally, yeah.
You guys are a big fucking deal in boots.
Yes, for sure.
And like, how scary is it trying to, one, maintain that, make sure you don't fuck it up, one, up yourself in boots, and then, bindings are pretty incredible, but then you kind of have skis, which it's fair to say skis are not at the same level as your boot volume. I mean, you guys sell way more boots than you do skis. And like, how do you get skis up to that without like ruining your boot brand, or how do we maintain a boot? Like, you have 3 pretty big categories. I mean, it's a lot to kind of juggle,
Yeah, I think that's the beauty
like?
and the beast of being a company as huge as Salomon, right? And I don't think people actually kind of, for the most part, comprehend everything that we're doing. Not only is it boots, binding, skis like you were talking about, but it's poles, it's apparel, it's helmets, it's goggles, and then obviously like the footwear side of the business. So if you think about it from like that overarching brand perspective, like it's a puzzle. every year, every season to like figure out where the investments are going, how those investments are going to impact the bottom line, how you're continuing momentum without sacrificing, losing momentum in a different zone. To go back to your original part of that question, boots are always going to be our bread and butter, right? Like that's going to be the focus for us every season. We're going to have like a boot story that we're going to go on. Bindings is our heritage. We feel like with the shift in the bag moving forward, kind of evolving the Strive line of bindings, we have like a good foothold there, and we'll continue to evolve and innovate as we can there. I think skis, to your point, is a place where we have a lot of opportunity to grow, but it's all about finding those right models that fit for the consumers. And it's a different beast when you're talking about North America versus EMEA as an example, or France as an example. And like, being based in France and like being in these rooms for seasonal planning meetings where you're arguing over whether we should invest in QST or invest in a piste ski. And it's just like, what? No, we shouldn't invest in a piste ski. We should definitely do QST. But and every ski company who's based in Europe can relate to that. Like that's just how it goes. But I think to go back again to that point, boots is our bread and butter. We'll always continue to innovate. For this year, obviously with the S Pro Supra BOA, you guys already have it up on the wall. That boot is the evolution of the number one selling line of boots in the world, the S Pro. And so just continuing to grow that. And then we have stuff coming down the line in fall, winter 24. That's going to be super sick.
So how scary is that? Like you just said, how, S Pro is the number one boot line in the world. The mid-volume. How crazy is that kind of, how crazy is it replacing that? Like how scary does that feel like to all of you guys internally at Salomon? I mean, you're messing with like a clearly good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think decisions like that are always going to be scary. And, there's the sayings, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But to your point earlier, if you're not continuing to innovate and like change things and grow things and evolve the line, eventually it's just natural consumer behavior for people to move on and find something new and fresh. And that's the struggle, right? With every ski brand runs up against it, every technology brand, every, sneaker brand, whatever. If you just stick with the same thing and don't change and evolve, then you're going to lose consumers left and right. And so I think when you look at the S Pro, there's been multiple evolutions of that boot over the past 5 years. And naturally, this one, with the addition of BOA, is probably the biggest change. But the basis of what makes that boot special, that last that we built it on, the 100 millimeter last, and completely redoing the construction to work with BOA, we think like kind of hedges those bets, right? It makes us not as nervous because we know that last, we know how to make it good. We know all the components that make a boot work well. And then adding BOA to that mix in a way that makes sense overall for the consumer is, while it is a little bit scary always to like revamp a really successful model, I think everybody feels good about the Supra for sure.
And what do you think about the BOA? I mean, honestly, my personal take on it, I think it's really cool. I like it. I think, again, to your point about innovating and continuing to kind of push the envelope, it does that. But obviously, you're going to get mixed reviews anytime there's a new-ish product, especially when you're messing with ski boots. There's a lot of old timers out there that are afraid of a dial. So what's your personal take on it? Like, how do you feel about it?
I feel good about it, honestly. Like, I think BOA is great. I think it was a much needed kind of like next step in the boot world. I'm not a Supra skier. I'm a low volume kind of guy for sure. But I did do the testing just to like be a part of that process and like the comparison between, benchmarking with competitor brands and how the BOA works compared to a 4-buckle model, whatever. And like, it's amazing in a boot that's not made for the type of foot that I have, how that allows you to like cinch it down, more of a wrapping as opposed to a clamping, and like actually allows you to ski as opposed to swimming in the boot. Like it's pretty incredible. And for somebody whose foot is made for that boot, like it's just going to make it that much easier to get somebody in there, have them enjoying themselves, and then experience that fit performance kind of balance that the boot offers.
And from a name side of things, because while I'm thinking about it, because you just said it a bunch of times, like
how the fuck
Alpha
did you get that name?
and Supra. I mean, you guys fucking crushed it with those.
How did that happen?
Yeah. Who came up with it?
I didn't come up with it.
Tell us. Oh, you should have just told me.
You guys have probably had it protected for years and years. You know, Salomon's well known for protecting a lot of good names.
Honestly, naming products is like, I don't think a lot of people know this, but it's such a hard thing to do from a legal standpoint, from making sure that you're not like overlapping with not only other brands within your industry, but like products outside of your industry. It's really difficult. Like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, man. You got to like be super creative, like make sure all your ducks are in a row, dot your I's, cross your T's. Like, it's pretty wild.
Well, I think that's part of why, you know, us in this room have some knowledge of how difficult that is. And for those names, for you guys to actually get those names is insane.
Yeah.
And I know we glazed over S-Pro a little bit, but, you know, saying that was the best selling, you know, category of boots in the world for a long time. I think it also, that was another disruptive boot when it launched. I mean, it's probably been 10 years, but
about 10 years. Yeah.
You know, at that time, everybody's 100 millimeter elastic boot is, you know, what people think of probably a 97, 98 today. So, you know, looking back and seeing what Salomon did, you know, again, that was, I hate to keep saying it, but game changer. It literally forced majority of other boot manufacturers to change the shape of their boots and the width of their boots, you know? So I think there's a reason that boot was the best-selling boot in the world for a long time. And then it also forced other brands to adapt to what Salomon had come out with for technology. So it was like, again, another one of those technologies that, yes, and it comes down to a last width and the shape of the foot and the boot. But, you know, you guys changed that part of, you know, boot manufacturing at that time, and everybody else was chasing you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's, to your point, it's obviously like a part of like seeing a gap in the industry, but then also continuing to build on it and grow it, you know, and like adding custom shell HD to the process, or custom shell and then custom shell HD to the process, figuring out new technologies that you can add to it that allow you as retailers to essentially like make money off of the product, whether it's through that custom shell process or whether that's, you know, through the difference in the average selling price, whatever it is. You know, it's in the end, like, I think part of what allows us to like have these awesome products is working with retailers like yourselves who are on the ground fitting boots with the people like at the resorts, knowing what we need and then listening. And that's in the end, like what sets some brands apart from others is that ability to listen, adapt, evolve, and then produce something that makes sense.
And, you know, like on the boot side, for sure, you guys are being chased. Binding wise with Shift, you guys are so far in the distance, no one's going to catch you there. I mean, the Duke, that was kind of laughable, I guess.
It was panic. They were panicked.
They came out with it first.
Yeah. They were panicked.
Yeah. But on the ski side, who do you look up to or admire brand wise on the Ski Hardgoods side? Who do you think is really doing a good job out there, from marketing to product to whatever, or even certain aspects?
Yeah, from a product side, I would say I've always had a lot of respect for the way Blizzard has approached making skis. You know, when they were one of the first companies I had a relationship with when I started working in the resort side of the business. Connor Brown was the rep, or still is the rep here in Utah. And kind of like how they've evolved their ski making from like those original Coachise skis to the Rustler series and everything they're doing right now, I think is pretty good. And when you look at, you know, you go from the product side to the marketing side just really quickly, like the assets that they deliver and create about the construction of the ski and what it allows you to do, like I think all that stuff is super on point. And then I guess like another one I would say is, you know, Atomic, and you know, I think theirs is mainly from like the marketing perspective, but like what they've been able to do from a longevity side of things with the Ben Shetler line and how they have kind of continued to grow and evolve it is pretty cool. And I mean, I have a connection to that brand. I worked with them for a couple of years and it was awesome. But I do think like from a heritage perspective and how they continue to kind of like push the design, like the graphic and the visuals and the marketing assets, and then utilizing athletes to push that message, the partnerships that they have. I think that's pretty cool.
So kind of a two-part question on what you just said. Two different things. The first one is, have you skied the new Rustler 9, Rustler 10? Because if you haven't, you should. They're freaking awesome. And second part is, do you think that Atomic would have ever thought they would be selling as many Benchetler 100s as they've sold in the last 2 years? I mean, because the numbers are staggering.
One, no, I haven't skied the new one, the new Rustler 9 or 10. And I don't think anybody could imagine, hitting the units that they're hitting. So yeah.
I mean, it's funny because, I mean, you can compare it to Shift to a certain degree. It's not as revolutionary or whatever, but it is another product that helps us as a retailer when someone comes in and they say they want to buy a Benchetler 100. There's no conversation. The conversation's been had between the brand and the consumer. Same thing happened with Shift, right? You talk to all these people, however you talk to them, right? And they came into Ski Monster and say, I want to buy a Shift. That's incredible. Because that's really hard to do in our business. So anytime, again, someone can do that, it makes the retailer's life pretty freaking awesome. Because it's like, yeah, I got it right here. What length, versus like, oh, I'm here for new skis. Well, what's the reason for new skis? And it's an hour-long conversation, which is fine, which is what we do every day. But for someone to come in and say, I want a Benchetler 100 in a Shift, you're like, sick. Perfect. Yeah, we have both right over here.
And it's not like that's like a crazy revolutionary product. It's not like, a groundbreaking binding technology or changing the shape of a boot. Like, it's a pretty normally built ski, but they launched it at a killer price point, and I think that probably got a lot of sales off the bat, and then people realized it was a good ski, a fun ski, and seeing more and more of them, and now they're just selling a jillion of them.
Yeah. And everyone's kind of trying to fill that same.
Well, I guess that's what they did. They filled a gap at that time.
Yep.
I think in the market with a waist width and a price point. So
yeah, the name and the graphic and
right.
Everyone was moving away from a lot of twin tip stuff, and that was kind of neglected. You just had, kind of Armada with ARVs. You had Chronix, the Tom Walsh's, stuff like that, and then, hey, here's this thing that's a little more all-mountain friendly, named after this powder ski that you've always wanted, but you never got because you're never going to use this ski. and
it's got a sick graphic, and it's $499.
Yeah. New ski for you guys this year is the Stance. Same name, of course, but new ski. And we had touched on it a little earlier with QST, and this is a kind of like from a marketing side of the house type of question, because like the new Stance, I've skied on it a bunch. Everyone here has. It's, in my opinion, I think it's significantly better. I think it skis better at lower speeds. I think it touches a much wider demographic of skiers. I think so many more people can get on it and be like, oh man, this is a lot of fun. It looks the graphics great. It skis well. I'm having a blast. Now, I guess the question is like, and this isn't the first time any brand has ever done this, but somebody that does this for a profession, like you basically, how do you transition, conveying the message of, or transition a ski, right? And convey the message that this is different and better. Yes, it's the same name. Yes, there's still some old ones out there, but you should either buy this for the first time or maybe buy it again because you have the old one. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy process, right? Because to your point, like, it's that name connection between the two completely different lines now, same name, that triggers that emotional reaction or the purchase reaction with the consumer. So when we launched the original Stance collection, it was it was really tough because we launched it like right before COVID. Like, we were doing the photo shoot for the original Stance collection at Snow Basin. The day we finished the shoot, the resort closed due to COVID. Like, we were in the lodge and they were like,
wow,
everybody out, like, you got to go. And so to launch a resort ski at that time, obviously was not ideal. And then I think the other thing about
Stance was shit timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fucking awful timing.
You're not kidding.
Dude, so the stars aligned for some of these other products you did. Yeah. You got absolutely fucked on that one. At least you had the Shift to kind of hedge some stuff.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is like, as we like planned how we were going to market it, like we positioned it as this like all resort charger, crafted to charge. really targeting that like X Racer style, like really fall line, laying the ski over on edge, and like that's fantastic. And I think like from a all mountain front side point of view, like you always want to have that consumer in mind. But I think when you look at it, like I think the vast majority of people, the vast majority of consumers who are buying skis, like might not relate as much to that like charge mentality, right? Like it's more about like having fun and like being playful and stuff like that. And so with the revamp of the stance line for fall winter 23, you kind of see that adjustment in everything from the visual representation, which I know we worked with you guys on, to the actual construction. So we still have like the twin metal laminate construction, changed up the core. So it's a poplar and Karuba wood core as opposed to just a poplar core, and then added some cutouts in the top sheet of TI to kind of like loosen it up and not lock it in so much. So I think it just like, it helps get away from that like charge mentality and more towards like that high performance, playful, fun idea. And I think you feel that when you're skiing it from the 102 all the way down to the 90. Like there's a lot of difference there from the original Stance collection. And just like you said, like I'm a big fan of it. Like I love the Stance 90 in the original one. And I think that one, honestly, like they're pretty close, but like the 102, I love the new 102 a lot more. I think the 96 is on point in this new collection, and they're super fun.
Yeah, and just easier to ski. I mean, you can still get it up at high edge angle and rip it, but like overall, the skis ski, I think, much better, at lower speeds. It's awesome.
They do. I mean, I never had any issues or complaints with the original Stances. I didn't think that was too much ski or anything, but the new ones are definitely more accessible at low speeds, which we can notice on some of the very few low angle runs we did at Alta. Not that there's much low angle there, but going slower, you could really notice, and it's a major improvement in the new Stance.
And while we're still on skis, I have to ask you this because I talk about it a lot, just from the nuances of testing all this stuff. And maybe it's just me. I mean, there's other people that agree with me, but I'm curious to what your opinion is. So the QST 92, that's probably one of my favorite skis you guys make right now. I could ski that ski all the time. Most of the time I could ski it and be like, this thing is awesome, right? Insanely versatile, easy to ski, super fun. I really enjoy it. The QST 106, I enjoy it for what it's built for. It's an awesome ski. But the 98, and it's probably your bigger unit of skis, I don't understand like what gets lost in translation between the 92 and the 106. And the 98 to me just feels like it doesn't belong there. I mean, it could just be me. I don't know. It's not saying it's bad. It's just not. I would ski the 92 over the 98 every day.
I would agree with you, honestly. Like I've said this before, and I'll say it every damn day. Chris McKieran knows it. Lauren Samuels knows it. I think the QST 92 is like the most underrated ski that we make. And from a price point perspective, I mean, there's more packed in that ski than you're going to find inside, the Bent 100 as an example. From like a construction materials point of view, like there's more technology in there. And like the price point is fantastic. It has cross country appeal from like East Coast ice out to the West Coast. Like you can ski it whenever. The 98, like, yeah, you're right. We do a lot of units in the 98. And I think there is a skier where that works super well for them, right? Like, I think it's more of the 98 to me is really all about personality and feel. And apparently there's a lot of people that love that ski, but I'm very similar to you in the fact that like I go from that 92, which I really love, but the 106 is like, that's like near and dear to my heart, and it's my everyday jam out here in Utah. So
yeah, I'm glad, dude. That makes me feel good. I was like, I'm going to ask Joe. He's probably going to tell me I'm a fucking idiot. I'm just going to ask him because that's just how I feel. Like every time I get on the 98, I'm like, I okay, but it's not. I don't know. It just gets lost to me anyway. So I'm glad we agree.
But that's also kind of cool too. They're all QST skis, and yes, they have similar technologies, but just goes to show that the 92, the 98, and 106 aren't just the same exact skis with wider waist widths. They're definitely different animals. They have different feels. Joe, like you said, that 92 can really go East Coast to West Coast, you know, and honestly span a bunch of skier abilities too. So, I mean, even you spent a ton of time on 106 and blank at Free Skier.
Jackson, yeah.
Yep.
A lot of 106 and blank time.
Yep.
106 is great. I got a lot of good photos on that one.
Yep.
It was a good photographer. Mostly just a photographer.
we had some epic snow too. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
helped.
Well, and also too, like I gotta say, I mean, thank you very much for always getting us early ups at Alta, because those that like have changed the way I view at ski resorts. I'm like, we can just do this and just be done. Like, this is great. Let's just rip 4 groomers, no one else there. All right, guys, like let's go to the bar.
Well, I really like when you get off, because like you always make it work out so like the sun is out like right when we get to the top, which is nice.
Yeah, he orders it up. He orders
Yeah.
the sun.
Thanks for that.
Well, this year was a little different because normally Joe is with us, and like obviously he has those Alta connections. And I just remember seeing Lauren's face this year when they're like, I forget, you were busy, McKieran couldn't come, and you were just like, all right, Lauren, take these guys up. And she was like, what? Like, unchaperoned?
And then we go down and we get to go on another lift, and like the guy was so confused.
Yeah, the lifty's like, yeah, you guys can't be here. We're like, well, we just skied down.
She just goes, Joe Johnson, Joe Johnson, and the guy was like, what? And we just got right back.
Oh man.
No, that's pretty special though, because it's also, I think the 2 runs that we get before the resort is actually open to the public is, I mean, the last few years has been some of the best content and images we've got. It's insane. Like you said, and you've ordered up the sun every time, which has been nice.
Well, that one little knoll. Well, there's a bunch, but that one knoll that's under the lift.
Yep.
Hard left footer.
Skiers, right? Yep.
Yep. And then you're kind of down and you shoot up at it. And I think we've got so many photos.
Bangers, yeah.
So many.
So thank you, Joe.
Anytime. I mean, that's like, honestly, from my time at Alta working there, that's one of the things that I miss the most is like having the opportunity to go up early, like get out, get some shots. You know, you might piss off some people who are sitting in line early on a powder day, but like, it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it.
And mind you, it's not like we're going up there and, you know, skiing fresh pow before ananybody gets to it. I mean,
Fresh cord, baby.
Yeah, which honestly is just as good.
Just as good.
Man, yeah, close. I don't know. Fresh pow is pretty dope, but yeah, it is close, especially at Alta. But yeah, that's, you know, it's interesting to have that ability to go up there and get that content when there's not a bunch of people around. And but yeah, you definitely feel like there's some people that you're making mad by that second run, and people are getting on the lift. They're like, dude, how is there 8 tracks already? Like, this is crazy,
dude. Stanson.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I don't think we asked. What was your first project at Solomon? Like your first product launch, or first product line you were a part of?
That you felt like you had your hands in it.
Yeah, you had some input.
My first one that I was like really involved with was actually the launch of the original QST. And that was actually when I was still working for Outside Media. And I remember we did like the press, like the big media launch at Alta, had the, you know, Free Skier, Powder, Outside Ski, everybody was there. It's actually the event where John Clary Davies, who was the editor of Powder at the time, and his now wife, Axie Nadas, met. That was at that event at the top of High Boy. So like
Sick.
Solomon's the reason they're married. That's all. It's cool. But
No big deal.
The first event internally that really like had my fingerprints on it, I guess, was the shift launch. And like, you know, everything from being a part of the process leading up to when it actually came to market, and then the actual launch of it, you know, the media event we did, working with the athletes. Sam Coffey at the time was our PR guy, which was phenomenal. And you know, it was such a cool experience, from the product to the people to the final launch. Is super fun.
Do you think Davies and Axie would be married today if it was the BBR launch?
Was the BBR before your time? Yes or no?
It was. I was
say
working.
yes.
I was working at. I was working at.
Funny how
Canyons
everyone at
Resort.
Solomon says that.
No, but here's.
I mean, how
here's the
does that
funny
even
part.
happen?
Here's the funny part: is I was
Okay, go
working.
ahead.
I was working at Canyons Resort in the marketing department when the BBR was launched, and they did that like massive, like nationwide demo tour. You guys probably remember this. And
Yeah.
they came through and they did a demo in the Canyons Village. And I remember like I went out and skied the BBR and, took one run on her and dropped her back off and went back to my office. But
Got back on my Blizzard answers.
but
Oh, did you have an answer? Did you ski on the Blizzard answer? That ski was awesome.
I did. I had an answer and then I had a Cochise and then I switched to Solomon after that. But
Nice.
I mean, talk about like polar opposites. You have the BBR, and then you have like the best-selling boots, or you have like the Shift. How does that even happen? Like, talk about a pendulum swinging
Yeah.
from the absolute, like one of the most embarrassing skis to ever come out to like some of the dopest shit.
Yeah.
And like honestly, and then like even like the recovery from that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
honestly, like I love having this conversation because, I mean, yeah, the ski didn't hit for sure. I think for a variety of reasons. I actually think like the variations of it that came later, like the 10.0 are what like should have launched before. Not saying that would have like changed the result, but the other thing is like I think the BBR like speaks to what Salomon's like willing to try, right? And it's very similar to what we did with the Shift. There was nothing else like the Shift out there at the time, and we're like, let's go for it. This is going to cost a ton of money. We're going to make a ton of investment in it, but like we think we got something here. And it was the same thing with the BBR, right? Like we had a guy designing it who had been there for years and had a ton of hits, and like they came up with this shape, and they're like, let's go for it. Like nobody else is doing this. Let's see if it hits. And I think like regardless of whether it hit or not, I think you have to have that in the industry, or else everything's just going to stay the same. And there's just going to be small changes that aren't really going to do anything. And then you guys got to admit, like you're starting to see that pin tip or the pin tail show up now in some skis. It's not combined with that bright blue color, but like it's pretty wild. You're starting to see it and nobody's saying anything, but it's there.
What did BBR stand for? Big Bad Radius? What was it?
I mean, that's a pretty good guess.
I don't even know.
I don't know. We could probably, if we find the guy at Chick-fil-A that designed it, we could ask him.
What did BBR? What did
I'm looking it up right now.
What did BBR replace? That didn't replace something dope like Extreme, did it?
No, Tornado.
No.
It was like, wasn't it Tornado? Tornado TI?
Well, I think it was just something completely new. But
It was just a new addition to the line. It didn't replace something.
yeah. But again, I mean, obviously it's really easy to poke fun at, but like, and we did that because we just talked about all the really good innovative stuff that you guys have done, and not all those ideas are going to hit, but kudos to you guys for taking that chance. It was just like, it happened to be in between like X-Scream 1080 and S Pro boots, like right in the middle of two huge successes. There was this failure. And it's also interesting, George made the joke, but like we know a lot of people that have worked at Salomon over the years, and literally as soon as you mentioned BBR, every single person, oh no, I wasn't there then. Nope, that wasn't my project. They're just like, deny. No, BBR had its own department.
I was ex-pro. Of course.
There's got to be like a safe at Salomon that has like the files of BBR and like all the names that are associated with it just like locked up. And they're like, we have these people, fucking bye.
Yeah.
We got him.
I worked with one that was involved. You guys know
he was
that.
in the safe? His name was in the safe? Oh, well, Joe, dude, this has been fun, man. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to ask you.
Well, he did sneak a little preview of I know you can't tell us what's coming down the line, but it sounds like you're pretty excited about some non-BBR stuff that's launching.
Yeah, for fall winter 24, definitely non-BBR. We can put that back in that safe that Eric was just talking about. But, I think part of the reason that I'm excited about the stuff moving forward is not just because of the product, but it's the group that's involved in kind of the evolution of this product. Everybody from the designers to the athletes and the evolution of our athlete team with the new junior program. The whole vibe, feel, direction of the alpine category is something that's going to change and evolve like in real time. And I think you guys are already starting to see that from the peaks that you've gotten, and consumers are going to start seeing it real quick. But I think that's what gets me stoked, because it's going to change stuff that we haven't historically made big changes with. It's pushing us to change because the needs of the athletes and the needs of the consumers are changing, and we're listening, we're hearing. So yeah, I'm excited. Like there's, a new boot that's going to make some waves. The QST line is going to continue to evolve. There's quite a few things. And to your point, like I would get fired if I said too much. So I'm trying not to get fired, but it is exciting. So yeah, I think the one thing that I would say that ties into that from the athlete perspective that we're super psyched on is the Junior Mountain Collective and like our junior group of athletes, and how they're connecting with our global athletes and the mentorship that's happening there. Everybody from, Cody Townsend mentoring to Alexi Gaboot and Stan Ray. We had the kids from Jackson that went and shot with Blank Collective this year. And so it's really just kind of completely retooling how we function as a brand and a category, everything from the content we produce all the way up to the product. And you'll see a lot of that this year on the film tour, on the Quality Ski Time film tour, which will be super cool.
Yeah, and I was kind of kidding about spilling the beans, but I think when we all left Utah this year specifically, I think obviously we have a peek behind the curtain on what some of those upcoming projects are, and but meeting the whole team and meeting some of the global team and sitting down with you guys and spending time with you guys, obviously skiing with you guys. We left there and we could just feel like how excited you guys were about this stuff that's coming down the pipeline, versus not that you weren't excited in the past, but I don't know, it just felt different. Like we left there and we're like, all right, these guys are pumped about what's coming.
It felt more like we're good with the traction we have. We're happy with the direction we're going, and we're excited about what's happening and all that. That was cool to see.
Yeah, and you could feel the excitement in the products too. That was rad. That was a nice, a hell of a place to have a meeting. Jesus.
Yeah, it was.
On a little balcony?
Yeah, the porch of the Snow Pine.
Must be nice.
That's good.
Yeah, porch of the Snow Pine.
That place is
pretty good.
Awesome.
I love it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sleep way better in Snowbird though. I need to get 400 feet lower. I was so hungover that first morning. Then we go to meet Val at Atomic down at Snowbird, and hangover gone. It's like I just had some hair of the dog, which I didn't, but felt like I did. And I'm like, dude, we're ready to rock, baby. Let's go. 7,800 feet never felt so good.
Yeah. I just like the that restaurant, and then the hot tub set up there. It's hard to beat that.
Yeah.
So we've stayed a lot of nice places, but that is hard to beat.
Snow Pine is freaking sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is sick.
It's worth me drinking 5 gallons of water at night and going to the bathroom every 15 minutes and
just
having
to stay
a hangover.
there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The funny thing about Snow Pine,
the hangover's the best.
The funny thing about Snow Pine is that it used to be the worst lodge at Alta, like the oldest. So all the other ones renovated before, except for GMD and P-Dog, they'll never renovate, and that's totally fine. But you had the Alta Lodge that renovated a little bit, and then the Snow Pine, it used to have they would add on just weird random sections, and so you would have these hallways that would just have pieces from the original foundation. There'd be these rocks and stuff, and it was such a weird little spot. And then they just came in and totally retooled it, and it's gorgeous. It's the best place to stay in the canyon as far as I'm concerned.
It's really like the Solomon BBR comeback story, really.
We'll cut that part out. No, because just because I'm still thinking about it real quick, the foundation there in the spa, right? Isn't that the story when you go into the spa I just did like a quick little walk around, and then I think McCarran was the one that told me that like that's the original building, and they just like turned it into like a waterfall, which is fucking cool. So, all right, Snowpine, let's go back.
Yeah.
Joe, dude, good to see you, man. Oh, are you going to be on the East Coast at all this year for like a quick little lap, or what's your schedule?
Movie tour?
Yeah, I'll be out for the movie tour. We will be in your neck of the woods around November 17th, and then probably for like sticking around for the Snowbound show. So, yeah. And hopefully like tagging along with McCarran and Lauren Samuels for some of those cool product meetings that you guys all get to do.
Hell yeah.
Well, when you're give us a couple weeks notice so we can make a reservation and go eat somewhere dope.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, we're talking. And we can do another episode too, whether it's with you or McCarran. If you guys have time, we could do it in studio. It's way more fun.
Sweet. Sounds good to me. Have like a Sam Adams or something while you're doing it.
Absolutely. You can have whatever you want. There's no rules here.
No, bring some of those beers that you post on Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
We have them when we go to Alta. What's it called? What's that brewery called?
Templin Family.
Something Family?
Yeah.
Templin Family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made our Solomon
I don't
beer.
that's right. Although when McCarran comes back here, he only drinks Vermont beers. So
It's true.
Well, we can get him some. It's not a big deal.
Yep.
It's not a big deal. All right, we'll have some Vermont beers waiting for McCarran when he gets here.
Sweet.
Awesome.
All right, Joe. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Joe.
Cheers,
we'll talk
guys.
soon.
Peace.
See ya. Peace, y'all.